Hi, I'm Batsheva Frankel from Overthrowing Education, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
It's the High Tech Podcast, back again. This is Josh, and I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Will Illingworth. Hey, Will.
Good friend?
Yeah.
I made it?
Yeah,
I'm finally at that level?
I have a lot of bad friends. You're not one of them. You know?
Wow.
No, I'm just joking. I don't have a lot of bad friends.
You should talk to somebody about
I
that.
just basically insulted every friend that I have on this podcast. But it's fine, because they're bad friends. They don't listen.
It's not a long list. It's fine. Boom.
Ouch. Anyway, joined another week. Episode 2 of Season 4, 102 of the podcast. Technically more than that if you count the episodes we always talk about. They're like the ghost episodes that we don't...
the middle children.
They're like the middle children we like mistitled, you know?
Yep.
We didn't know what we were doing back then. They didn't get added into the numbers. They always miss the family photos at the end of the year, you know? Like they're...
I was just watching an episode of Will Smith, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like the original.
I was going to say, Will Smith has a show now just called Will Smith.
Why not? It's his YouTube channel.
Just him in a room giving his thoughts, you know? Anyway, sorry. Bel-Air.
Not Bel-Air, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the original.
Fresh Prince of
Bel-Air
Bel-Air
is the new show.
There's a new show called Bel-Air?
There's a new show called Bel-Air on Peacock, which is Will Smith again, but not Will Smith. It's the character Will Smith, not the act. I don't know. Maybe he's not named Will. I don't know.
Wait, like he's in it and he's not named Will?
No, Will Smith is not in it anymore. It's like a drama. It's a drama version of Fresh Prince. It's titled Bel-Air. I believe it follows the character of Will Smith, not the actor, as the character. Okay. And Jeffrey, the butler, is like, he may as well be a shorter version of Idris Elba as James Bond. Like he's like a very anyways, sorry. This is
why I don't watch shows on bird themed offerings, you know? It's a general rule I live my life by, you know? Is it bird themed? I don't watch those.
The point of that was that Ashley was upset in the episode that she was being forgotten because they're about to have the fourth kid and she was going to be a middle child. And wow.
See, I don't even know who Ashley is. Was she a character in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Great. This is and this is why this is a hobby, friends, because this doesn't fly on a professional podcast.
Well, sure it does. We're learning. We're learning about things. Anyway, whatever. That's Bel-Air. I Think Podcast, sponsored by Bel-Air. No, I'm just joking.
Hashtag not a sponsor.
That's not true. Anyway, what are we talking about today, Will? It's not Bel-Air.
I smell something, actually. Is something burning? Is something roasting?
It could be. It's a roastery. If I had
time for a roastery. Listener,
roastery.
If you're not watching, Josh is like hand drumming the air all over the place.
Like if you're also, you said if you're not listening, you meant not watching.
If you're not watching.
Listener, if you're ignoring us right now, I did a motion that you can't hear. That's what happened. Okay?
This is the most cursed podcast opening I think we've done in a while.
I love it. Yeah, this is great. This is our new thing.
It's perfect for a roastery because we're down in the depths of fiery hell. I don't know.
I don't know.
We decided to bring back the roastery, and for so much fun, we're going to take on Articulate. Articulate is a product, an e-learning product. I don't know what their parent company is. I'm not sure it really even matters. I think it's like...
Isn't it just Articulate?
I'm not going to look it up. Doesn't matter.
Anyway.
Articulate has a bunch of products, like Rise 360, Storyline, Review 360 or something like that. There's a couple different ones. And they're very popular in corporate. They have a place in higher education.
We use it in education.
The product is used to create e-learnings. If you out there, listener, have ever taken a compliance training like anti-harassment or sexual discrimination courses or whatever, where you had to click through and you had to listen for blah, blah, blah minutes, and then you had to take a quick, that was written in something like Articulate, if not specifically Articulate, something like it. So you put in a bunch of slides, you put in some quiz questions, you mess around with the timeline, you produce a package, and then somebody takes that and it gives them a grade at the end of it. Why we want to roast this, ironically, because I've actually been using a lot more now recently and I'm enjoying a lot, but why I want to roast this is it's so popular. It's seen as the like go-to thing in the industry, but it's not required. Like there's so many ways you could do learning without something like Articulate 360 or Articulate Storyline. Like people make their careers on this product and you don't need to. It's good. It's just not required.
Yeah, and before like we get too deep into this, like we don't hate everything about Articulate. For instance, episode 28 of the podcast, we did talk about Rise 360 as a recommended app. Yeah. Okay, so I want to clarify some things. I still recommend Rise 360. There's a lot of stuff I like about Rise 360. And Storyline, although Storyline I have more gripes with than anything else. It's
kind of like an Adobe Canva comparison. Like Rise is really easy and Storyline is not.
Storyline's kind of obnoxious. What I guess are all their products? It's Articulate. I know Storyline and Rise 360. They have other stuff, right?
So the parent company is Articulate, and their product lines include like I'm clicking products and it's just not opening up. I don't know why. Articulate 360 definitely. When I use it on my work computer, I get like 7 different apps I can use. Articulate 360 and Rise are their most I guess promoted tools. Storyline is the specific e-learning authoring tool that you download on your computer. It works like a slide deck. You can put a bunch of stuff in it. Make this on a different screen. Maybe that'll make it bigger. No, it's just not giving me any more. So that's kind of goofy.
I hate you. My face just got like really bright, mainly because I'm logging into my Access to see if I can find it. Because I have Rise 360. They have Review 360, which is a review tool for Rise. It's basically like how you can send your Rise content out to other people and have them review it. Reach 360, I'm not quite sure what that is. I'd have to look into it. So let's focus just on Storyline and Articulate Rise for this discussion, because I feel like let's just be honest. The other ones, we don't know them as well because they're not nearly as popular. So let's talk about Articulate and Storyline as our main focuses. And I'll be upfront. This Roastery episode was originally Will's idea, so I'm going to let him start because I really like Rise 360, so I don't want to like burn it hard during this one.
No, I will. So one of the things that's really funny to me about Rise 360 specifically is that it's got a big reputation in the e-learning authoring space that's corporate and higher education for being this easy but beautiful thing. It makes a website that scrolls and things float in. It's fluff. I mean, functionally, it's not doing too much pedagogically. It's really well designed to keep things simple. It's got a lot of white space. It doesn't overcrowd the end user. So there's some good principles behind how it works and what it does. But at the end of the day, it is still a product that is flat. I don't have a better way to say it than that. Like, you go to lesson 1, you scroll through it. You go to lesson 2, you scroll through it. You go to lesson 3, you scroll through it. There might be a knowledge check. There might be something that swooshes on screen, but it's not actually going to make your students and learners specifically more engaged. It is up to how you use it to use the engaging features or not. But it's not this silver bullet to online learning, right? Like it actually makes designing some of the prettier stuff easier. So you don't have to know you don't have to know CSS, HTML to like make some pretty stuff. But besides pretty doesn't mean it's effective. That's, I think, my biggest gripe with Rise 360.
Okay. So one could probably say your gripe with 360 isn't necessarily with 360 itself. It's with the culture around 360.
There we go. Sure.
In Articulate's defense, that's not their fault. People have decided by using Articulate magically things are better now.
Right.
Because, and I think this is coming a lot from your side, Will, in corporate, because it is super popular in corporate versus higher ed. Like higher ed, it happens, but let's be honest, higher ed adopts new tools like a snail crossing a bridge. Like it's, like I see people using Bridge. Articulate in higher ed, and they've just like they put videos in it, and I'm like, okay, first of all, like you could have just done that not in Articulate,
right?
But I see your point. There is kind of like this assumption across, I think, areas that like when you use Articulate, it's just because it's an industry standard tool in of itself, it produces good learning. But you can make horrible looking Articulate things, and here's my one criticism with Articulate. I love Articulate Rise, but it's a very scroll-based learning experience, and it doesn't foster well to creating more dynamic learning experiences where like instructors or people are involved in a training. It's more for self-paced. That's why it's so popular in corporate.
Yes.
Is because it can be very self-paced in components, but in of itself, it doesn't necessarily do a good job at creating a perfect environment to like track, to actually ensure people are learning. All it does is really track that people completed things. Like it doesn't actually necessarily track learning.
Did they check the boxes? And a point that you're sneaking around in all this is there's no social learning. It is not a social learning tool. There's no way they're going to do discussions, talk to each other, refer to each other, nothing like that. Yeah,
there's no constructivism types of ideas coming through. There's a better way to say that. I couldn't think of it. I got a cough drop in my mouth, folks. I'm sorry. It's distracting me from all real words. So I get that to a certain extent, right? Like that is an issue with Articulate. I will say my biggest gripe with Articulate Rise just in general is a lot of their really cool interactive tools are not accessible. Yep. And that is a big criticism that Articulate's been getting recently, is like hotspots, all their stuff that really I think they have that provides them the value that they have are not accessible. They're just not. And I understand those environments are hard to make accessible. Part of it's like limits of tech. Hotspot stuff is hard to make accessible. I get that. Some of the more interactive stuff like matching and moving stuff around, that stuff can be hard to make accessible. But because of that, we create learning experiences that sometimes limit the people who can take the content.
Yeah.
And that's difficult. Now, I know that's a battle. Like, how do we do that? Sometimes we make choices. Like, I'm speaking as somebody who's released and designed Articulate content into courses, and I'm totally okay with the content that I released. Right. That was a frustration on my part that, like, there wasn't more options in the tool for accessible interactive content. I felt like if I really wanted to leverage the tool well, I basically had to toss accessibility to the side and just kind of assume that somebody would have a different way of doing this if they needed accessibility. Like we'd figure something out. That was kind of,
it would have to come to an accommodation as opposed to
you'd have to
making it accessible to them in the first place. Yeah, and that's one of those things, like, to me then, what's the difference between accessible Rise 360 and just a Canvas page? Not much. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you can put pictures into Canvas pages. You can design them pretty well with HTML these days and some CSS. Like, you can make a Canvas page most of a web page, which is what Rise is. Rise is just a web page with the right kind of fancy custom styling on it. The fact that the picture whooshes in from the right-hand side or fades in from the bottom, right? Those are just some techniques that you can use anywhere with CSS. They've just been built into Rise, making it easier for people like me and Josh to make the stuff. We don't have to have technical skills or hard design coding skills to make them work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a value point. Like, this Roastery is tough for me because there's a lot of stuff I like about Articulate, specifically Articulate Rise. There's a lot of user experience interface stuff that Articulate Rise does that's done really well that I actually get annoyed with in regular LMSs. But I do see this even in conversations I've had with people on the corporate side of learning when we're talking about that area, that it does kind of seem like, well, if we just plug this into Articulate Rise, it'll be great. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what tool you're using, Articulate Rise, Canvas, whatever you're doing, good design and careful scaffolding and learning goals and all of that stuff, like that's going to dictate good learning experience.
Yes.
Much more than just the environment. Now, there's a lot of stuff the environment provides. For instance, like I've developed Canvas training in Articulate Rise, and I use the hotspots a lot because it shows the person the environment that I want them to see when they click on the hotspots. Simulation stuff that Rise does, or that you can do through Storyline. That stuff's great because you can kind of build an environment to put them into the experience of what they would sort of experience in real life in these questions, instead of just a bad quiz or another paper that they have to write. Like there's some cool stuff to those elements. But it's not going to be your silver bullet by any means. It's not going to magically fix things. Now, let's talk about Storyline for a second. Okay? I want to give my opinions on Storyline. I have experience with Storyline. I don't use it nearly as much because it's not nearly as popular in higher ed as it is in corporate. But I've played with it. I've made some content through Storyline. My biggest criticism of Storyline is this. IORAD exists. That's basically it. That's my...
This episode is both a roastery of Articulate and at the same time an ad for IORAD. Hashtag not a sponsor.
I didn't. That just came off the cuff, so I'm just gonna roll with that. But in seriousness, though, my frustration with Storyline is that it is such a pain to manage the content that you create in Storyline. Like editing content after you make it is much worse, in my opinion, than other stuff I've done. Like, am I wrong in that? Like,
have you specifically used? Have you used the screen recording tool in it?
Yeah, I've used screen recording. I've done like the simulate, like add in clickable items into the videos, that type of stuff. No, like,
you're good. Keep going.
Creating any of that, like if I create like a clickable environment to screen record and do some of that stuff, like when, in my opinion, when stuff changes, changing that in Storyline is just a pain in the butt. Over other things that I could create. And I'm not sure the payoff is as good as it should be for that type of work.
If I wanted to make a recording of a Google Doc and show someone how to insert a table and hide the header, for instance, just those two things, doing that in Articulate would require like not only 4 or 5 different like assets, either those being like screenshots or screen recordings, but also like probably 6 to 10 different layers of like arrows, animations, spins, timing, blah 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 blah. Yeah, like if you wanted to do that in IORAD, you would turn on IORAD, you would click, and you'd turn off IORAD, and the recording would be done. Like you would have everything you need with Articulate.
That's why we freaked out when we saw IORAD, because I was like,
because it's so good.
Because I had literally just made some Storyline stuff before we connected with IORAD on that episode a while back. That's why I freaked out when I saw it.
I agree with you. So this is amazing. I'm in such a torn position right now. I've spent probably 50 hours in Articulate in the last 2 weeks in Articulate Storyline. Okay. I've been using it a ton. And what I've really enjoyed about it is that it works to get a very fancy and or unique video experience done, right? Like if I need to do stuff, and to be honest, when I was working on it recently and I had some slides that had like 6 different animations moving stuff in from the left to right, and I was like, and then somebody changed the script on me, I wanted to like, it takes a lot to align everything, move every little piece on the timeline. It's like Adobe. It is like Adobe for iOS.
And you know my vibes of Adobe. Yeah, that's basically...
Yeah, and to that point, like there's a reason that there's a huge community around the product. There's a reason that there's like that they offer their own, very expensive trainings on it. There's a reason that there's other people creating YouTube videos and other trainings on it. It requires expertise to get it to do it well, right?
Yeah.
Josh, you could just upload a PowerPoint into it, put like a quiz slide in and export, and you're done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that is as simple as it could be. But like one of the packages I was working on recently, and this is both a pro and a con, okay? For work, we had this package that had about 30 slides, and we wanted to add about 20 slides to it. But of those 20 slides, 10 were for one audience and 10 were from another audience, okay? And originally they put them in a slideshow, right? So it's just like slide, like one after the other. Like they did one audience and the other audience. Like we'll just ping pong them so they see them all. And I asked the question immediately when I looked at the designer. I was like, why does this person need to see all 20 slides? Isn't this two people could see either, but we want them to see the whole package? Like, yeah. I was like, okay, what I'll do then is I'll make this a branching scenario where at slide 10, they choose, are they A or B, and they get to go down and just watch A's line or B's line and then ignore the other one if they didn't want to. That required variables, that required triggers, that required states and hidden layers, and it was really fancy, and at the end result, it was really cool and it worked. On the other side of it, it took me a day to build that, which is ridiculous at some level, right? That's not even the entire course is not even learning content. I was just building technical stuff into this so it operated how I wanted it to operate.
Yeah. And that's great. That's my criticism of Storyline though, because like I hear that and all I think is cool. I could have just created pages on a website that they clicked on which person they were, and it took them to the right spot that they needed to, right? Instead of a slide experience, I could have created a more interactive. I could have even done that in Canva. I could have probably set up Canva slides. Like,
amazing.
Just click. Like, all it is a link. You need to create branching scenarios. All I'm thinking is I need two buttons. One that goes to the one slides and the one that goes to the other slides.
I love how this Roastery is becoming an ad for other products. Like we're like, I'm just like, forget Articulate. Go use this. Go use this.
Yeah. And I'm torn because there's stuff I like about Articulate Rise. There's stuff I like about Storyline. I get that. Like you can create more interactive video experiences. I'm always torn back and forth around because it's become so popular. People are just so used to seeing it now that some of these interactive video experiences aren't really paying off the way we think they are.
No,
they're becoming these stale trainings that people don't necessarily love interacting with. Like they don't love engaging with them nearly as much. Like nobody left work yesterday and went, oh man, whoo, that storyline, that storyline video on cybersecurity, like dang, woo, that changed my life. You know, like now part of that's content, part of that's motivation, part of that's scenario. Again, it's not all Articulate Rise, but we're putting in all this work for something that I don't know all the time if the payoff is right, you know?
And one of the things that's happening as a result of what you just pointed out, what I've been pointing at as well, is that in job descriptions, people are starting to use and have been using Articulate to gatekeep. Like literally you can't get a job unless you have 2 years experience using the platform or you have Articulate certificate and using it. I probably couldn't have gotten my job if that was a requirement, but now like literally I was talking to my boss about this. Like I took a course years ago and I took half the course and I liked it, but I literally told my boss like don't pay for the half. Like this doesn't mean anything to me unless I'm building something in this platform. Yeah. Right. Like I was just learning where to push buttons. I didn't need them. In 1 week, I did more to learn how the product works than I did taking that course. And so that's even like if you're an aspiring learning designer, you're listening to this episode, like you thought this might be funny or interesting, like hopefully it's both. But if you want to get Articulate on your resume, don't spend the money on the certificate course. Spend the money on the license and then making a portfolio. Build things. Do what I was saying. Build a branch, right? Build a learning package where somebody chooses to be the rabbit or to be the hare or the tortoise, right? And if you follow the tortoise, they go through 3 slides. If you follow the hare, they go through different 3 slides. You know, like make something, put it on your portfolio because doing that taught me variables. It taught me triggers. It taught me objects. It taught me layers. It taught me hidden states, right? Like these are all great tools. And I have to plug Sean, my buddy Sean Pyle on this one. He wrote an awesome article. It's on LinkedIn. I've reposted it. I'll make sure that it gets reposted again and again and again, showing how to do a specific thing to create a survey at the end, like a really cool, good looking survey at the end of your tutorial. And just doing his one article, it wasn't even, 2 pages long probably. I learned enough that it gave me all the tools to go and do this other stuff I've been doing in my projects recently. So like there's a lot to be said for the platform. If you learn some of the basics, it makes it a whole lot easier to do a bunch of things in it. But the other side of it is I did the branching because like you said, like there was kind of like a, let's make this just a little easier on the end learner, but there's no, I wouldn't say we had a pedagogical goal at first. Right? We were just like, oh, maybe that'd be cool, right? Like there was this bells and whistles approach because our Storyline has so many bells and whistles, and that can be a deep rabbit hole where you get lost in the things it can do. Again, maybe losing track of should you be doing it in the first place? We also were reacting to an existing training. We want to make an existing training better, but if we were making the training in the first place, like made this big package with 50 slides. I think it would have been better if we made 15 slides for this group of people, group A, and this 15 slides for this group of people, group B. If each of those just got their own unique trainings, as opposed to trying to stuff them into one training that ended up being 50 slides long, it would have been more effective from a time perspective and hopefully from even motivation perspective. That's neither here nor there. That's not Articulate's fault, but right, like we got down in the weeds of what it could do, because we wanted to make something that we already had better as opposed to designing an effective learning module from the get-go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think, it's not, this is one of those roasteries, just like any roastery we've done up to this point, because I think Will and I can only be so negative to a certain level unless it's like turn it in. Like that's, where like, it's like, I use Articulate Rise. I'm not going to stop using Articulate Rise. There's a lot of stuff I think they do better than Canvas and a regular LMS. Like interactive learning content, I think is a big deal. I do agree with Will on this. I think there's this perspective that because they're industry standard, they kind of in of themselves just create better learning experiences. And that's not always true. And there's some issues, things that they can be better. Accessibility. I think some of the complexity of what we do with some of Storyline and even Rise at times could be done in simpler ways and still get the same learning experience payoff. That's probably my thing I'm realizing that I need to think more carefully about. And then also just the last plug I'll make of, because we're roasting, pricing, Articulate. If anybody somehow listens to this, what the frick? Like, I'm sorry. The pricing of Articulate is absurd. Like what is it? Like $500 something for like an individual license for Articulate. Like, I mean, I know there's deals. We got a deal, at our institution. And that's why we're using it. I should double check that information. Let's be careful before I start throwing around.
Yeah, I don't think they have price. Oh, wait, here, I've got it. Let's see. No, so, okay. Their teams plan, like maybe if you and I got a team plan for our harness tech company, is $1,400 annually. Their freelancer individual personal plan is $1,100 annually. Their academic plan is probably what you're on, where you got a really cheap price. It's like $500, $600, $700.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of. Sorry,
but at the personal plan level, I will stand behind them on this. Okay, at a cost level, I still think it could be cheaper, should be cheaper, but I believe that about everything. That's just because I'm stingy. I discovered and have been using a lot more of their assets. They have a very big library of stock images, templates, and videos.
No, that's true, yeah.
And you know what? If I had to pay for a ton of different like subscription services for videos, images, avatars, stuff like that, that stuff gets expensive. So
I guess it's true.
Articulate, drop your price by like $200, maybe $400, $600 a year.
Figure out a better system. I think the reason I criticize Articulate in this is that there isn't a great system for Articulate for people to just get experience with Articulate.
That's fair.
This is a large
30-day trial is it.
Like designers, instructional designers, people trying to get into that field where they have this requirement to have years of experience with Articulate. most people can only get years of experience with throwing out a bunch of money for a freelancer license that they're maybe going to use to the level that's worth paying for, or be in situations like you and I are in, where we work at organizations that had Articulate, but organizations don't always have the ability to do that. So like, yeah, I don't know. That's probably my pushback. Overall, I still love Articulate Rise. I still will use it. We want to use it more in our environment that I'm in right now. It's not perfect, just like every other tool out there. And really, I think we do these roasteries to kind of remind ourselves that no tool is perfect, except for maybe Notion. Just joking. So that's just kind of, I think, our vibe on Articulate. So we'll post more on our website, maybe a little bit more on Twitter, our thoughts. Yeah. With that said,
I think we really just need to put this on a new, like, cover this with a new canopy of information, frankly.
Yeah.
You know,
that was
like, just
that one was forced. I got to be honest. That was we've had some bad transitions, but that was not.
I'll be honest. As I was thinking of the word canopy, I was thinking of the word canvas, and so I was like, "Oh, we need to paint something new on this canopy." And then I was like, "That's the wrong word.
That's not what canopies are for."
That's just canopies are not to be painted on.
I mean, I guess they could in theory, but that's not really like
It's fair.
It's not a common understanding of canopies, Anyway, what's our tool today, Will?
Our tool this episode is more a service, more a platform. Kanopy with a K is a really awesome platform that provides AAA blockbuster films, real movies for free for academic purposes. Like, I want to make sure that this is as clear as I can possibly say. This is not trying to undercut Netflix. This is not illegal either. This is not an illegal platform streaming service, something to that effect. I'm not promoting BitTorrent and Torrent. No. Kanopy is a platform that is designed to be integrated with public libraries and academic institutions. So if you have a .edu email address or a membership with your public library, you potentially have access to a Kanopy license. At my last institution, we had Kanopy, and I had lots of faculty use it because they could give students access to movies that were relevant for, like, cinema courses, communications courses, ads, media courses, right? Like, whatever they were working on, Kanopy provided them real movies. This isn't, I can't say that they've got Spider-Man No Way Home or something like that. That's not really their shtick. But some of the top ones just on their homepage are Moonlight, 8th Grade, Race the Power of an Illusion, On Chesil Beach. Like, I know I've heard of Moonlight as a popular one. Lady Bird, that's a popular, I think that was like an Oscar nominee or winner. Like, these are some top-notch movies and materials, and they're constantly getting more media. It's not just something where it's got 50 movies from last year on it. They rotate things through. All of the films are meant to be accessible for free for you and me. So what their model is, I was actually looking this up because I want to make sure we weren't advocating for something that was illegally distributing music or movies. Their model is that the institution, the library, the university, the whatever, pays a pretty small fee from what I can tell, unless I misunderstand it, but they drive the fees and they get the access, and then you, the end user, can watch for free. I know that I was able to show this to my sister-in-law who has Austin Public Library, Austin, Texas. They have access to Kanopy. I tried to use ours locally here in Lancaster and it didn't work. I think that's on me. Like, maybe I need to go to my library and be like, hey, have you ever heard of Kanopy? Could you find out if this is something you could support and we could get access to? Like, the library has to drive that for me. You're a part of a college. They would have to buy it. But a really cool platform. If you've got access to it, then all of your students have access to these kinds of top tier films. You don't have any licensing issues. You don't have any concerns with ethics. Like, your students can access it for free. And everything that goes on there, I think, as closed captioning and stuff like that, so that's at least more accessible for more of our users. I just love it. It's a great tool for media because before something like Kanopy, people would rely on like telling kids to make like use the 7-day Netflix trial or
don't even. Yeah, we
or
I know
downloading
what
things
courses, I know what
illegally.
courses you're talking about. I've done that because people
Yep.
know Will used to work where I worked. And we killed that now. That doesn't exist. Luckily, we've been able to murder that. Well, I'm getting very violent in my description of that, but yes, that's very popular in education. Like, hey, sign up for the 7-day thing for Netflix and watch movies or whatever. Like, that's not cool. It also puts students in weird situations where, like, if they had 2 courses that asked them to do that, like, now they're like,
Right,
I
and
can't
they used up the free
get the
thing.
trial. Now they've got
how do
like
they get
18 Gmails. You know,
to get all
it's
these
not cool.
free Netflix
So
accounts.
I'm always a proponent of, if you want resources for your courses and things like that, investigate these methods first. It's amazing how many of us in education have a tendency to just be like, well, I can't pay for it, so what's my free sketchy way of telling my students to get access to it?
Yeah.
Like, that's not cool. Like, we need to figure out good ways to do that. So any tools that are like that, and Kanopy seems like a great tool if you're able to get access to it, to get access to media that could be helpful for cinema classes or history classes or whatever courses. I'm not limiting you. If you're in that chemistry class and you want to watch Moonlight, I'm not going to blame you. That seems like a weird combo. But hey,
you make the pedagogical case for the pedagogical goals. Good for you.
Yeah. Who are us in the High Tech Podcast to hate on that? You figure it out. But it's I think a great resource.
They have a subdivision, Kanopy Kids. I'm not too familiar with that. Don't need to be, but hey, it's worth finding out if it'd be relevant for your kids. If you're K-12 teacher, right? We are not limited to just any one group. That's a good option. There's some concerns, like at a cost level. I'm reading here that 2019 some big public libraries discontinued it because of unpredictable costs. I bet you they're going to develop and get more consistent with that. It's only been around, I say only, it started in 2008. It really got popular in the 2010s, like 2018, 2019. So it's only been gaining steam since it was purchased by another company and started to roll up since 2019. I think it'll get more and more useful. 2 last feature elements I want to highlight. Kanopy does allow features like captions and transcripts. Those are accessibility tools, so I'm glad that those are referenced. There's like clip creation, right? So you could clip a video for your students to watch. You don't have to watch the whole movie.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think probably in reverse, you may be able to have your students clip and show you things, like if they want to. There's options there. Playlists, they can share videos around. So good. Once you get your students in, there's some good stuff to share media across. The other thing that I really appreciate about this, and this again speaks to accessibility, is it's an HTML5 video player. And if you're not too familiar with that, and on the technical side, that doesn't matter, but old video players for much of the internet's history were built on JavaScript, and JavaScript was inaccessible, and then Java died in recent years, and Flash was what died first.
Don't worry, Coffee's still here. Java, the code, died.
Yeah, exactly. HTML5 is the newest, it's the greatest, but it's more accessible. I don't know how accessible, but I know that I've seen that it works better with accessibility tools and stuff like that. So there's just a couple of big wins there, not only for all of your students, but the students who might need extra support in the classroom for learning purposes. Lots of good things.
Yeah.
I think that drops the Kanopy on this episode, though. I think we're there. Is that a better transition?
That was better. I don't know we needed that, but it was the transition. I don't know. I was about to quote Batman. It was like, the hero we didn't ask for, but we needed. But then I realized it doesn't make any sense either way. So at the end of the day, you know what? Yep, we dropped the Kanopy on that discussion. There you
go. As I say that's my episode to end. So hey guys, how's it going? That's how we are.
I was doing my thing. Just waiting.
This is episode 102. Thank you for taking this time with us. Next episode 103, we're going to be getting into some more general, broad stuff. Josh and I are optimists. I don't mean that in the sense of optimism, but optimizers. We like to optimize
I was like, where are you
everything.
Going with this? I was like, we're not I was like,
it was a play on words.
That's a one term there, I think. I don't know if you.
No,
anyway,
I I did what I did.
I don't. It was
no
great.
regrets.
I loved it.
No regrets.
It was great.
We're gonna be talking more generally next episode on like tech productivity tips. I can't tell you how many things are physically on my desk and or virtually on my desktop that I use to be productive. Okay. Josh uses just probably more than me. I mean, heck, he uses Notion every day. So that's already one thing he does to be more productive than me.
My tech tip is adopt Notion. See, I'll give you a heads up for episode.
But we're just going to come at you with a slew of tech productivity tips. We want you to be more productive using tech in general. We think that this is relevant to academics, but is actually approaching a broader audience as well. And then the app we want to provide you with, I know nothing about, but I'm excited to learn about myself from Josh. It's called Atomic Search. Is I believe a plugin or an add-on to Canvas, the learning management system, and it does a lot of beautiful things for people doing beautiful work. Am I wrong?
Yeah. I mean, they could be not doing beautiful work, but it still does beautiful things, you know?
That's a good thing.
It's not reliant on their work. It's, you know, it's to each its own, you know?
Find us on Twitter and YouTube at High Tech Podcast, please. Thank you. There's some socials over here
right about
on my screen.
You would think we would look carefully before doing this, but it's more fun to just kind of like obscurely
we just make it up as we go. Yep. Follow us, like us, subscribe, retweet, engage, DM us, all those good things. Reviews also, we love reviews. Find us in those spaces. Leave us 4-star, 5-star, 7-star reviews. I don't know how many stars you can get.
I don't remember what the max is,
but I want them. I want all the stars.
Whatever the max is, 3 more. That's
and then some times 3. Email us, inbox@hightechpod.us. We actually received an email recently. I forgot to talk to you about this. Someone asking to come on the podcast. Like, I think that might be one of the not the first, but like just like
that's like
we got cold
called.
Pretty excited by that.
Called a couple times now.
Send us feedback, send us questions, send us partnership opportunities. We'd love to have partners in the podcast or sponsors. We'd love that.
As we mentioned in the first episode in the Hype video, the High Tech Podcast is now having a company that oversees it. So hit us up if you want to partner with that company or us.
Boom. Find us at hightechpod.us. That's the website. That's the web. That's the digits. That's the digital digits.
That's
not
the interwebs.
That's the address. Find us there.
The whatever we call it.
I don't know. I'm just vaping.
You're vaping? That's
no,
that's not what you're doing.
Not it.
That's not it. Anyway, I think they call it a website. That's just what I thought.
Yes, anyway. It is. Thank you again, folks, for joining us for another week as we continue, as always, to learn what it looks like to harness technology wherever we might be, whether it's in the classroom or not, whether we're online or in person. We might have taken a roast of something we do like this week. We hope you enjoy the roast, but we hope you also take a look at the product, what it can do for you. Until next time, see ya.
See ya.